if you're gonna one day, if you aspire to be a VP of engineering, you need to have been, you need to have written code, probably touched DevOps and infrastructure, and probably been a product, some product related business role, and then you'd be a pretty good VP of engineering. If you want to be a VP of product, you kind of have to go through, and if you want to be a CIO, you must have managed business applications and maybe a little bit of data center and a little bit of systems work and stuff like that. So what is that profile for someone that, okay, if I wake up tomorrow and say, I want to be a chief information security officer, what is that path? What does someone have to do? Or no?
Well, so I love this question because I have an answer to it that's very much out of the mainstream. But I do want to put a caveat there, which is the role is being defined as we speak. Companies are hiring CISOs right and left and firing them right and left because they get dissatisfied, right? So 22 months is not a large average lifespan for a leader in any type of organization, right? And that's where we stand in the industry. And that's because we haven't found an answer, right? So industry in general is trying to figure out what this thing means. You and I live a lot in the technology space where things move faster and they're more on bleeding edge, but technology is not the only vertical in the world. Finance sort of has figured out an answer for itself a long time ago. So it's much more well established there, but otherwise, there's no clear understanding of what this means. So with that caveat, I want to say one of the things that I like to say to this is we have a problem, not just that people think of security as a technology role, but CISOs cast themselves as the guard at the gate. I'm sure you've heard that before, right? This idea that, oh, I'm going to protect the company. First of all, oh my God, how much hubris do you have to spew to say something like that? That's nuts. You are the person that is protecting the company. Usually when somebody says this to me, I look at them and I ask them a really simple question. Okay, explain this company's cash flows to me. And they look at me really, really kind of like, what? I'm like, oh, you say you're protecting the company. This is a commercial organization with a goal of being as profitable as possible. Explain cash flows. That is the number one thing you need to protect if you're protecting the company, all right? Tell me how it works. Tell me how money comes through the door, how it flows through the pipes, how it goes out the other doors. I just want to know, if you're making this argument, you need to be able to answer that question. And then I usually get like deer in the headlights look, because guess what? CISOs, those kinds of CISOs, which comprise most of the people in these organizations, have no clue. And usually...
I was not expecting that. Interesting.
Right. And so, and this goes back to my view that CISOs need to make friends with sales, right? With marketing. You need to understand what your company actually is trying to achieve. And it's not to make less vulnerable systems. Let us be completely 100% clear on any business organization, even when they're understanding that security is an important business discipline. The goal of the company is never to make less vulnerable systems. It may be the goal, some part of the goal in the NSA, but really, it's not for any company that's out there to sell products unless it happens to be a security vendor, at which point the security of its own products matters. And it becomes part of the core business practice for that organization. But there's very few and far between of those. For most organizations, what they're trying to do is manufacture product or create services and deliver them in the most efficient way possible, right? That is the basic definition of corporations, right? Technology just serves a supporting role. And so if you're starting to cast your job as a person, as this idea that your job is to protect the company, and you think about it as, protecting the systems, and then you take the logical leap to say, well, but it's an essential business discipline. So clearly, part of the company's goals is to run systems with less vulnerabilities. You're failing at your job right there and then. And I always, there's all these examples I can give. Let's talk about the most devastating breach in terms of the data lost in the history of this country, Equifax. All right. You talk about if you believe.
So just give context, just sum it up in 30 seconds, what happened?
pretty much every citizen of this country, all of their most sensitive information, forget social security in different numbers, financial profiles, everything that's associated with that, your entire history, all the sensitive data that anybody might need in order to open accounts in your name, pretend to be you, and all gone, all taken by nefarious parties. If part of Equifax's role was to make less vulnerable systems, what would have happened to Equifax? Simple question. Would the company continue to operate?
If their role was to protect Equifax systems, would they continue to operate? No.
Right, the company would go under. Didn't go under.
Yeah.
You know how long it took for the share price to recover fully to its level before the breach? 11 months.
Wow.
So, all right. So if you're telling me that the security is an essential business practice because part of the company's goals is to have less vulnerable systems, I'm sorry, you're kidding yourself. You're just hiding behind your understanding of technology and lack of understanding of how business operates. So one of my strong recommendations to people is go take a psychology Psych 101 class so you understand how people's behaviors are. If you really want to prepare yourself to be a good CISO, understand how people operate. And 2, try to find an assignment that would allow you to, if you can't directly oversee P&L, at least interact with P&L. Understand how money flows through a commercial organization, right? If you can't live it, if you can't breathe it in and really kind of like get a good sense of how this works, you're never going to be able to provide solid business advice to your board. And I want to say one more thing to this, because this is a conversation that comes up recently a lot. How do you present to the board? And CISOs always say, oh, we present to the board. Well, the board is now forced to listen to you for one slide every time they meet because the SEC made a rule about it. Doesn't mean that you actually are talking to the board because they're interested in what you have to say. If you're going to share with them a dashboard with green, red, and yellow, talking about your incredible progress at protecting the company in terms of vulnerabilities and code fixes, you're not actually doing anything the board gives a damn about. Let's be fair. They just have to do this, so it's part of their checkboxing mentality, but none of them are hearing you. So sorry, you're not actually doing your job as a CISO.